Well, welcome. We'll start out with a flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. Tonight's meeting was a special meeting to hear public comments and to talk about the 2020 comprehensive scheme of harbor improvements for the Port of Allyn. So I am going to turn it over to our executive director. And
I'm going to move this up here. That's all right. And hopefully I don't unplug anything. Okay. This is an update to the 2018 plan. We have to do this plan every 6 years. The 2018 update was the 6-year update. This is just kind of an update to the original plan. We didn't really have to do this, but we have some projects that are done, some that we want to look at and reprioritize, and this is running a little slow here. Here we go. I don't know about any of you, but I hate when somebody reads PowerPoints to me. So I'll just let you read it. If you have any questions, raise your hand, and we'll kind of go from there. Anyway, the idea of the plan is just to give us a clear and comprehensive vision for the future, kind of a roadmap of where we're going, where we want to go. Naturally, all the plans depend on funding, so we are aggressively pursuing funding, and we've been fairly successful the last couple of years, but there's no telling if that's always going to be the way it is. So the basic plan includes an inventory of our current assets, all the projects currently in process, prioritize the list for 20 through 23, and we have a metric for measuring success to each one and a work plan for implementation. So this is a list of the assets. I won't read them all to you. I guess when you all look away, I know you've read it all. No. Existing in progress, carried over from 2018 is the Oyster House. While you can look at it out there in the parking lot, it doesn't look like we've had a lot of progress, but actually we have. It's been behind the scenes that nobody has seen, but we do expect to have something going on that you can see shortly. Why is this viable? Here's all the reasons. Ken.
Larry, I just wondered if you have a chance to verify about that well on the North Shore property, if you could include that in the assets.
You know, that's a good thought, because I didn't, say out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. So thank you. So this is our timeline here. The implementation of this depends on funding, but we did get funding for it this last section of the legislature and expect more. And here's all the progress we've made. We figured out how much it was going to cost. We hired a professional engineering firm, Art Anderson and Associates, to put together an engineer's estimate for us. We got a capital budget appropriation of $218,000, and what that's for is it's going to take out the old launch ramp here, do all the design engineering for the new ramp, or the new platform, I mean, and all the pilings and everything, and that'll about take up that. The North Bay Historical Society has received $160,000, and they're doing the stabilization of the building itself. And with that $160,000, they also had a match on, I forget how much it was. Was it a 2-to-1 or? Yeah. So it's more than 160. It's, we have a set of engineers' drawings in process right now, and then you can see the rest of where we're at there. But design engineering is in process for the pilings and the platform itself. How are we going to know that we're successful? The launch ramp comes out by the end of the year. All the engineering's done, and you can see what it says right there. And now here's the new projects. These have been prioritized by the results of all the public input which we have received, and some of these were listed in the 2017 comprehensive scheme but had no action. Some were listed in 2018 scheme. But here's all the public outreach that we did for this. So you can see we did quite a bit of it. I'm sad to say we didn't get as much response as we got 2 years ago, but it is what it is. So project number 1 for new projects would be to develop a state-of-the-art commercial and light industrial park. We've talked about this before. The port almost got involved in one, I guess around 2008 or somewhere in there. Was that when it was? And because of the economy, the deal fell apart at the last minute. So we'd like to revive that with the economy and the condition that it's in. We feel like this is something, this time has come. And we have some other projects that could fold into this. So why is this viable? Here you go, you can see that. Questions about this? And here's some more reasons. One of the things that we wouldn't mind if it jump-started a tech industry cluster here. Amazon is moving in here, and it will create some opportunities for other tech things. And it's just going to be right down the road. There hadn't been any new industrial commercial space built in North Mason in years and years. So how we're going to do it? Pretty much right there, pretty simple. Got to figure out where to do it, figure out how to pay for it, and figure out how to get enough land to expand it beyond its original footprint, because if it's as successful as we believe it'll be, it should grow. So we want to plan for that. And success, well, all the buildings, they'll secure long-term leases or sold at a profit. It just kind of depends. We don't necessarily have to own them. We can develop them and sell them. But we are looking forward to it becoming a major revenue source for the port. And we're looking for, it would be something where our maintenance staff could work on it as well. So it would just be a continuation of the staffing level we already have. New project number 2, construct a staging area for boaters at the Allyn Waterfront Park. This is was a target of opportunity for us. 2016, the commissioners directed me to write a letter to Mr. and Mrs. Ogren that own the house on the corner here, and said, if you ever sell or want to sell, we'd like first right of refusal to buy. Well, sometime during 2019, we got a letter from them that said, yeah, we're ready to sell. So we negotiated a price, had it appraised, and just did all the things that we need to do for this. And then we got a $500,000 grant from RCO to buy the property and develop a staging area for the boaters. What we want to do is tear that down, put together a 2-lane staging area. So, and the way that we envision it is that it will accommodate two lanes of traffic with 3 sets of vehicles each. A tow vehicle and a boat up to 24 feet with a 10-foot separation between them should be easily able to accommodate 6 boats at one time. The reason is we want to get the traffic off of Drum Street. In summertime here, when people are trying to launch, the traffic on Drum Street just backs up, sometimes out onto the highway. This should alleviate that. It should keep this stuff off of private property as well. And also, Another issue that we have here during the summertime from May to about Labor Day, the gazebo is a major event venue. We have weddings here almost every weekend, sometimes both days, sometimes Friday and Saturday and Sunday. What happens is when those boats are and tow vehicles are lining up to use the ramp, they block the entrance to get in and out of the parking lot. So this should solve that problem because it also includes redoing the parking lot where the Oyster House sits right now. Project number 3, develop a first-class indoor shooting range. This is something that we've bandied about for a couple of years and we believe would be a major money maker for the port. Mason County has about 60,000 residents, 10,000 of which have concealed carry permits. That doesn't count everybody that has a gun that doesn't have a permit. So, and I think we all know there's a bunch of those. This would give them a place to legally go shoot. There are some others. There's one in Tacoma, one in Issaquah, one downtown Tacoma, and one out by the freeway, by Bridgeport Way. There's another one in Olympia and one in Bellevue, and they're all making money hand over fist. This should be a great revenue generator for us. Law enforcement, regional law enforcement agencies have committed to use this facility if we build it. So we'll have some regular income from that. But there's a lot of other potential income besides hourly fees to shoot. We would sell ammunition. We wouldn't sell guns. We're not going to be in the gun business. We'd rent a gun that you could shoot if you were curious about one, but also educational and gun safety classes as well. So why is this viable? Well, a lot of that's the reasons I just enumerated there. And here's some more. For those of you that came late, I always said I hate when people read PowerPoints to me, so read them yourself. But it, yeah.
Have you done some due diligence on like the size of building that this would take?
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to need about 2 acres of land to do this. And it depends if we want to have a store with it or just the range and how many shooting lanes we have. You know,
1,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet?
about 6.
6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Smaller than I thought.
Yeah. No, it's pretty compact because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
You know, you have an entryway when you come in. You have a little, maybe a store where you sell stuff like ammunition, earmuffs, you know, that sort of stuff. And then there's just a shooting range.
Yeah,
There's
you
no.
have to kind of build the building within
Yeah, you do.
HVAC stuff.
You do. You know, you've got questions about sound. You've got questions about air filtration and, you know, lead recovery.
My cousin owns a gun shop. He's a deputy, and he did a lot of due diligence on that. I should get you together. He's got a lot of due diligence on what it would take to build it, and already has kind of a model for that.
We should talk.
Yeah.
Also, RCO has money for this, and they're pushing it. So, you know, it gets people out of the woods, which isn't an issue. You know, luckily, nobody's been killed out in the woods yet, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. So, and again, find a suitable location and apply for grants and design it and build it. And success metrics would be, you know, gun safety classes become an ongoing community event and an additional revenue situation for the port. We reduce the shooting in the forest. We have law enforcement there all the time, which I think having law enforcement in this end of the county a lot more than they're here now wouldn't be a bad thing. So, and because of the location, we want to locate it somewhere near the county line. We'll draw people from Kitsap as well, because there's nothing there. You know, they used to have Kitsap Golf and Country Club, Kitsap revolver and rifle range, but it's been closed down for the last 2 years, and there's no telling when it might open. So,
Right down by the new fire station.
yeah, Yeah. That's one possibility. You know, somewhere out on Highway 3 is another. It just depends where we can find enough land at a reasonable price.
Earl Giddings land?
Pardon?
Earl Giddings land?
His land, part of it lies in Kitsap County and part of it lies in Mason, and that's a problem. So him and I have talked about this before. I talked to him about this project, the combination sports project, and there's not enough of his land in Mason County to do this. So, but anyway, this is the other project. This was our #1 project last time in 2018. Problem we ran into here is we need about 20 acres of land. We can't find 20 acres of land that we can afford to do this. But and that's why we've downgraded it from 1 to 4. It's based on the Luke Jensen Sports Park in Vancouver, which is a really popular place and a first-class facility. I'm not going to go into all the economics of this, but there's hundreds of soccer players and softball players and baseball players, and I know I umpire baseball myself, and the biggest problem that we run into with select league baseball and high school baseball is not enough fields. Softball runs into the same thing. But at any rate, here's all the reasons this is viable. There's nothing like this here. There's nothing like it in Kitsap County. So we would draw from both. And I'll let you all read that for a second. Maybe you have a question or two. I guess not. It's why it's viable. The high school has stadium suitable, but the Highway 3 freight mobility corridor may take part of that away. We don't know for sure yet. So MCRA in Shelton has soccer fields, but they're booked up all the time. Same thing with the baseball fields they have. And this has the potential to generate substantial revenues for the port, but also in the form of league rental fees and everything else for the port. But the other big attraction to this is that if we can attract tournament play here, and we've got a bunch of statistics about this, every tournament day generates about $75,000 a year for your community. In people buying gas, people eating in restaurants, people staying in hotels that we don't have, but maybe somebody will build one, and those kind of revenues. And the county runs on sales tax revenue, and these are great sales tax revenue generators. So in here, success metrics. So, and then project number 5, develop Sweetwater Park in conjunction with the Salmon Center. Why is this viable? The port has a responsibility to develop some additional facilities in North Mason and the Belfair area. This would be a fully ADA compliant recreational facility, something that there is not in Mason County at this point. Offers an opportunity create some synergy for tourism with Feller Wetlands and Lower Hood Canal Discovery Trail, as well as the sports complex, if we can make that work. Be an ongoing, long-term relationship with the Salmon Center, which we don't think would be a bad thing. Can be considered economic development, because when completed, it'll generate ecotourism. And it also has an environmental component, or educational component, that would add to economic development as well. Our timeline is... Timeline's kind of fluid right now. We are in the process of getting the final paperwork worked out for getting the deed for the property, and then we'll coordinate with the Salmon Center for joint grant funding, create an MOU for it, and everything else that goes with the project. How do we know if it's succeeded? ADA compliant for tourism, revenue neutral, doesn't cost us any money, doesn't cost us any, doesn't really generate any either, but it's a park, and it becomes possibly an additional wedding venue, which could create a new revenue stream for the port. And then we have some additional projects that, yes.
Let's make one comment that I do have a study, and I can find it for you, but there is actually some great economic development studies for small communities, especially when you have a really developed, people, they invest in the municipal parks and trail systems. It becomes a draw, like Feller. That can actually be, once you have some of those other pieces in place, or more restaurants, so you don't have shrinkage outside of the leakage outside of the county. But once you have something like that, you can actually be a pretty good economic development booster. And I've got some numbers on that.
That'd be great. That'd be great. It'd be great for, the port. It'd be great for the county. Additional projects, upgrade to the Lynch Cove swimming pool. This is, I'd actually like Commissioner Cooper to talk about this.
Yeah, so in 2018, one of the biggest wants from the community was a swimming pool. So the school district was here and talked how it's not really a good money spending thing for a school district. It's not really financially viable for the county. So there is a neighborhood pool that needs some repairs. Larry and I were taking a trip to Spokane, and the RCO manager was on the phone and was like, "Hey, do you got any money for pools?" She said, "We have so much money for pools that just decide what you want to do." So we approached the Lynch Cove Homeowners Association. They need some improvements done to their pool. It's open one year, not the next, and it's kind of where we're at right now. We don't know how much further we'll go or what they want to do at this point, but definitely talked about it would have to be open to the public at some point. How that works, we don't know. The high school kind of has the same RCO grant open to the public for the track, and kind of in its infancy discussion phase right now, but I thought it was a good opportunity hearing the community input about the need for a pool, and we talked about where do kids go to learn how to swim from the community, and we think this might be a spot for them.
This is one of those things where if we can make it work, it'd be great for the community. If we can't make it work, we can't.
Yeah.
It would be good. My concern on behalf of the port would be maybe some concern for liability. If it's open to the public, then
That would be with the homeowners association. Our part of this would be to get the pool repaired and get grant money from RCO, which will require it to be open to the public somehow. But after that, it's the homeowners association. We'll wash our hands of it.
They would grant under those bases where the port.
They have to grant to us, and then we do the repair and turn it back over to them. And yes, they'll do that.
Wow, that's even better.
Yeah.
The liability.
Yeah.
That surprises me, but that's even better.
Yeah, and that's why this is attractive to us,
Yeah.
because we can create something that the public can use, and we don't have any real expense for doing it, and we don't have any liability when it's over.
Yeah, kudos.
And then the other one is establish a co-working facility. Does everybody know what that is? Co-working facility is a place, it's an office that's shared with a lot of other people. We have, there's 3 of them, I think, that have opened in Kitsap County in the last 2 years. A really nice one in Paulsboro called The Vibe. There's one that the Port of Chehalis did, downtown Chehalis. They took an old building that was falling down and refurbished it, and it's hugely successful. And what it's for is solopreneurs. They can come in, you have Wi-Fi, you have a shared conference room, shared, smaller office space, but everybody works kind of like in just workstations around the building. You have a shared kitchen, but it's for people that don't need an office all the time or the expense of it. The way that it works is it's a membership. You pay so much a month, you can come and go as you want and use all the facilities, be Wi-Fi, high-speed Wi-Fi, and everything else that somebody needs in an office, but without all the expense. There's one of these that's operated on Bainbridge Island for about 10 years. It's called Bainbridge Expats. And it's been hugely successful. The one in Paulsbo is doing really well. So this is another one, be contingent upon grant cycle funding. Got to find a suitable location. We had looked at that 3D building in Belfair and tried to get a intergovernmental transfer with the Department of Transportation, but they wouldn't do it. So, but that would have been an ideal location for this. And, you know, so we're open to the possibility of doing it again, and it's just a target of opportunity. If we find the right space, it would be worth doing. So we're just going to be on the lookout for it and see where it goes. But it you know, the success metric is it generates enough membership with membership and usage fees to cover its cost of operation. We don't see it as a real big revenue generator, but as long as it pays for itself, it services the community. And then finally, development of the Lower Hood Canal Discovery Trail. We've talked about this before. This is kind of a joint project with several different people, and they would like the port to be the lead agency because we're the only one that would qualify for government funding. And you know, I think there's a lot of stuff for this that needs to be worked out, and money is going to be an issue, but it's not going to be our money. But if we manage the project, we can get paid for doing it. So, and timeline to be whenever the money showed up. So, and then just some additional notes about the upgrade to the Lynch Cove swimming pool. Scott covered that. Purple pipe is something that we had talked about before. We'd still look at that if the opportunity came along. And then the Beards Cove Skateboard Park, this was in the 2018 plan, but we only had 2 or 3 people that were in favor of this. Everybody else was against it. So we just dropped it out of the plan. So with that, any questions? Going once, twice.
Yeah, I do. I know. By the time we get all these things done, my kids are going to be grown. It'll be a moot point. By then, maybe I'll have great grandkids. We don't have parks. With the parks that have now gone to the Early Learning Center for Feller, there are no parks for kids to play. There's no swings, there's no slides. I mean, there is this one. The good Lord got to come all the way into Allyn from Belfair to play at it.
We need a place to put it. You know, and
That is true.
you know those big toys are not cheap. That one out there
I know.
that one out there is $100,000.
Yeah. But I'm looking, you know, I end up going into Port Orchard for the water park. And I mean, my kids have a ball at that one.
You know, my grandson was young. We used to go there too.
Yeah.
Because
And-
it's fun for little kids.
But honestly, it's not utilized because we can be there and the only thing that comes in is a bus from a daycare center most of the time.
It's used pretty hard on the weekends.
Weekends, yeah, daytime, I mean, and that's why I go. It's because, you know, you might find, 20, 30 families, and that's ridiculous. During the summer, I mean, it's crazy, and most of them are military families, and I'm talking McCormick Woods. You would think that they would be, jammed in there, and they're not.
There's not a lot of families in McCormick Woods with young kids.
Well, that's true. But then what they put a park there for?
They-
A water park. Grandparents, I understand that.
There, I'm pretty familiar with all of that from a previous job I had.
Really?
And it would take an hour to explain all of the stuff that
But
goes
it's
with
the
that.
idea, we don't have any parks with a swing or a slide or,
No, I hear you.
Nothing.
That could be done at Sweetwater Park.
Yeah,
You're right in the middle of Belfair.
I mean, it was great to have the Feller, but now they're all fenced in because of the school kids.
Mhm.
So there's nowhere to go, and in summer, they're locked up, so you can't use them. I mean, it's terrible because, you know, and it's horrible that you go to the Baptist church behind it, and you use it during the summer.
That little play area at Feller was paid for by Rotary.
Right.
And under the auspices that it was going to be open to the general public.
Right. And then you got a fence put around it.
That's why we need Sweetwater.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I did have another question for Larry. We talked about the survey a little bit briefly, and I had wondered when that first got posted or when your first response was.
You know, I forgot to look, actually.
Well, it has to have been up for a couple months, I would think,
Yeah.
and that 17 isn't very many responses.
I'm more disappointed about that than I know how to tell you. You know,
Well,
because we
I
promoted
think
it.
everybody's really just.
We promoted it hard. Promoted it on Facebook. We promoted it on Instagram.
That's
promoted it
not a very,
on our website,
not a
and
very helpful sample.
we got a lot of other people that knew about it to share the survey link. But I'm very disappointed actually in the response.
Well, thank you for sending it.
So.
So what I'd like to do is open it up for public comment. But first off, we have 2 written comments, one from Jeff Carey that we received tonight. If we could put that in the minute, Jeff Carey's comments. And then Ken, would you like me to read your comments, or would you just like them, or would you like to read them, or would you just like them entered into the minutes? I've read them.
What's that?
I've read your the comments that you submitted. Would you like me to read them?
No.
Or
you
enter them into the minutes?
I'm fine if you just enter them into the minutes.
Okay.
Consider what I asked.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so what I'd like to do is that if somebody has specifics on any of the projects, opposition, so I'd like to hear it, or pros and cons, we'd like to hear it. So feel free, introduce yourself and talk about them. So.
Okay. I better run, so I would love to. I'd
All
like
right.
to give a little comment. I came up tonight to comment in support of the Sweetwater Creek project. As you guys know, I've worked on it a lot for years. That actually was a project, even from the days of Neil Werner, that we started planning that with Bruce Dees and Associates. It has to be 15 years now, probably, or so. And a lot of community members donated and gave to that. And when we went through our second round of fundraising, we really kind of decided to go for it and get some topographicals and surveys done so we could really actually have Bruce Dees do some realistic design work. And we did that. And we raised a lot of money. I can't recall, there might have been 115 people, I think, that donated to that. I mean, I have the list somewhere still. I think I've turned it into you guys before. A ton of support, and financially and otherwise. And then a myriad amount of different people that volunteered their expertise when it comes time to move forward with some implementation. People volunteering for clearing, people volunteering for disposal and construction work, people volunteering their expertise as an engineer, Michael Staten, a lot of people, an architect that had volunteered some work. So there's a lot of in-kind already committed to that, a huge amount of support. And I would tell you that I've talked about that project a lot over the last 5 years, especially, 6 years especially, with the exception of one individual. I've never heard anything negative about that project. And so I just don't see a downside to another park and an interconnected trail system in Belfair. There's no downside to getting families out and walking. There's no downside to economic development that'll come subsequent to it. And what was the other piece I wanted to say? I've got a lot I could say. I want you to know that I wasn't the only one working on that. Years ago, if you all remember the days of Ken Wilson, right? Ken actually got that put in the Mason County Comp Plan under the Parks and Rec. And he was working on the trail system that went from Allyn to the new park that was there a couple years ago. It was finished down here by the salmon hatchery. Culture Creek, yeah, thank you. And then he and I worked together, but Ken did an amazing amount of legwork on this other trail system that he would go from his this park down here up over the top and tie into Theller. And that's when Rick Krieger came along and started saying, hey, I want, I'll be a part of that, and we'll create another loop, and started talking to Mindy about some of the plans and potentials, and some really amazing vision that took place. But Ken originally, what got into the Mason County Comp Plan for Parks and Trails, and I verified that a couple years ago when they were updating theirs and made sure it was in crystal clear. But even Ken, years ago, had cited, and there will be a future park in this pathway. This trail will go down up over the hill to a future park at the water wheel, and then cross over into the Theller wetlands. So this has been something that's been in the works and supported for 15 plus years. So it's in the county comp plan already. So I know there's been an individual that perhaps has discussed it shouldn't go in the comp plan. It's another attempt to try and block funding and block the progress, which is interesting. But I just want you to know that would make zero sense, and I would really hope that you wouldn't take all the work that hundreds of people have done and volunteered and donated to, and the work product that we've already produced, which has got some glowing accolades. And I would hope that you would remember that and make sure it gets into your comp plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thanks. I just want to talk real quick about the Sergeant's Oyster House, and I'll steal Judy's thunder. Years ago when I worked for the state, I was so happy when I saw that oyster house get moved off that piece of property, because I'd get calls every night to remove people from that building, and I swore I'd never have to deal with it again. But it's a project that I feel strongly about. It's something that the community has put a lot of heart and soul into it, and I've heard and I understand the comments that we can be doing something else. This is a money pit. I take that to heart. But through all the work and all the grants that we've received, the biggest thing I want to do now is see us move as quickly and as efficiently as possible to get that thing off those pilings and over the water. So I know there's been comments made, and Kat, I agree with you. Some of these projects we have will be long gone when they're done, but I'd like to see that one done. And I'm sorry, Judy. Judy's put her heart and soul into it. So, but those are the comments that I saw, some of the ones in the survey. Get rid of that thing and move on to other projects. So that's all I had to say. Sorry about that.
No, hey, that's great.
Kat, I'm with you too. I mean, the week before I started here was the week they drug it from 302 to the parking lot. So I just started my second term last month, so that was 6 years ago. And there it sits. And in government, it's hard to make things go fast, and there's money, and there's permits, and there's making sure the community's involved. But I think we've got some good projects in our plan right now, and I think they're ranked fairly, and some may never happen. Hopefully some do, and we're pretty excited about the future.
Great, I mean, I really do. I wish we, had a windfall that just put them all there and boom, it could all happen at one time, But it's just the idea, and it does, it moves slow.
Some come on, some come off, they
Yeah.
go back on.
But, it's like the freight corridor. I just don't want to see it take 50 years. I'd like to see
50
something
more years.
before I die.
I think
Yeah.
that one actually will happen.
Yeah.
Because it is scheduled to be done by 25,
Yeah.
so. I'm
Oh, the
pretty
freight
confident.
corridor or the
Freight
hoist-
corridor. No, that one, long before that.
Oh,
I do have to say, though, I want to publicly say thank you to Kat's husband, Mike Ross, for doing what he's done, because, there was a period of time when things were pretty slow and pretty tough, but, I want to thank Dan Orchard, too, for helping, keeping things going on the Oyster House, because I know that this has been laborious, time-consuming, expensive, but just even people volunteering and putting their own money into it, it will be the gem in Allyn. It will be.
Well,
I'm
just,
pretty confident.
Every time you look at the concept, I mean, you look at the concept here, and it'll get there. It does take the time, When you look back at the pictures of what this area used to look like and what it looks like now, you have to understand it doesn't happen overnight. But it's the idea that, the concept of just, a place to do business. These things happen, and sometimes it is overnight, and all of a sudden you've got a business office. And you're going like, wow, why didn't we think of this 20 years ago? Because people are working out of their bedrooms, for crying out loud. And,
Well, I came from the private sector after 30 years in business for myself. The biggest frustration to me in government is how long it takes to get anything done. I mean,
It's called red tape for a reason.
private sector, you make a decision and you implement it, and that's it. But here, government doesn't work like that. That's for sure.
Yes, yes.
After this discussion, add a couple of comments.
Okay. Go right, feel free, yes, sir.
Hi, Ken Van Buskirk from Belfair, and I submitted these comments about the comprehensive scheme of harbor improvements earlier this afternoon. I would encourage you to consider my comments about project number 5, Sweetwater, and I would like to further discuss with you. And then we didn't really discuss the 2 issues that I brought forward from your retreat that you had in Leavenworth. That was one was the issue I brought forward about the 4-way intersection. I think the other was the issue that Representative Griffey was working with you about, that it never ended up on the comp plan, but you discussed it at the retreat. Both those issues, I think if they had been on the survey, you would have got a lot more results. And I just would ask that you consider adding those 2 projects onto your comp plan, because they're very important for both communities. And then lastly, at the retreat, you had a discussion about not taking a position on the proposed gravel pit down the North Shore adjacent to the port's property. And I just ask that if you folks do have a well on that property, that if the gravel pit gets rolling again, that you consider taking a position on that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ken, on the sidewalks that Representative Griffey was talking about, we've talked about exploring for money, and Larry was down in Olympia, I think 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and spoke with Representative Griffey. If there's any way we can get some money to start the feasibility on those sidewalks, we're gonna try to do it.
Yeah, I was down in Olympia last week and I heard about it, and that was before I saw it in the meeting minutes.
Right. I think,
So there's talk about it going on down there, that's why I would encourage you to get it on your comp plan.
I think also adding the sidewalks here would help a little bit in reducing the anxiety when you pull out of here, because people won't be able to park so close to the church and block your line of sight to pull out. Still, people go way too fast in this section of road. But I think we'd have to we're gonna have to back the parking up, back towards the south to give people more visual sight or more sight to see what oncoming traffic's gonna do. And then regarding the four-way intersection, maybe you could talk about that,
I didn't get to see your comments
Felt it
yet.
was a
I don't have
county
his
project.
comments.
county.
I've sent them to you twice.
I haven't gotten them. Sorry.
Okay.
You got 'em?
What were the concerns of the formation?
It's just it's not traffic control. I mean, it's backing everything up.
Right.
And that, you know where the bottleneck is. People are using Old Belfair, Clifton, everywhere to go around the intersection. It's just a mess. So whether it's a roundabout in that area to keep traffic moving,
Are you talking about Clifton Lane? Clifton Lane, right?
Four-way, yeah. the
Yeah,
four-way
okay,
is-
gotcha.
Four-way
I'm
stop.
sorry.
At Old Belfair House.
correct.
It was a discussion that we had last week with
Farah?
Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that was not included in the 2018 traffic update, even though it was one of the components of the 2004 sub-area plan that the port was so involved in.
That's quite surreal. That was really worthwhile.
You know, it's funny, though, I'm on the PRTPO and WashDOT, because there is that private lane to, you know, Clifton Lane is private. And then county and state, that, it's a lot more complicated than just
Sure.
that, but,
The
you know,
port could be a leader.
well, that's
long
true.
suggested.
But we can only get a few things done, no. I do have to say, like I said, Highway 300 has been my push to get something done on Highway 300.
If I might, the only other thing I might suggest that whenever you approve this comprehensive plan, forward it to the county, because they're starting to redo the sub-area plan and an environmental impact statement.
Yeah, that's
That
a good
doesn't need
idea.
to
I think it
Yeah,
would be
thank you.
important to include whatever you come up with to them for any of the projects that are proposed in the Belfair area.
Actually, Ken brings up a good point on the sub-area plan, more support for the project number 5 for Sweetwater. That was spoken about and discussed with, boy, over 20 public meetings and vignettes and planning.
I disagree, Ryan.
In the 3-year process of developing the UGA plan, there were, and we didn't specifically talk about the name of the Sweetwater Creek Park, but we talked about these hubs of parks. And actually, one of the gentlemen that came in, we hired our park and trip planner as one of the 4 professionals that came in and helped put together that UGA master plan. And he was very talented out of Kingston. And I think we spent, of the whole plan, it was about $20,000 for his participation in leading some of the public input in some of those vignettes, and it was really well received. So on the UGA master plan, you'll also see many park hubs shown in green throughout the corridor, including that area. That area, yeah, around Feller was always referred to as kind of the gem of our community. The future there is depicted on the plan.
Ken,
Like I said,
maybe I'll,
I need to make another
actually the area that the Sweetwater Park is envisioned right now, that was a development node, and both the school district parcel that they're currently looking at transferring to the port and the private parcel are 2 of 11 parcels that are all zoned multifamily. So if this project proceeds as it's envisioned, it's going to require rezoning or changing to the comprehensive plan. Please don't interrupt my comments. Thank you.
Okay,
So, I'd love to give some.
that'd be great.
Oh, great. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mindy Harlow. I'm the Executive Director of the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. And our facility is the Salmon Center, which is has been referred to a couple of times tonight with some partnering opportunities for some economic development and environmental education in our community. So I wanted to talk specifically about the Sweetwater Creek Water Wheel Park project. And kind of go back to that reason that the school district acquired the property. When you look at the grant that was written to acquire that property, the purpose of acquiring that property was to make sure that we were furthering recreational opportunities and environmental education in our area. So it was supposed to be an expansion of the existing Theller Trail system and project center that exists now at the Theller Center. So it was acquired by Dr. Schindelheim, who had his heart in our community for environmental education and making sure that kids had access to recreational opportunities. So I specifically have been working on this project since 2012, but I know that there was a lot of work that was done prior to my executive directorship at the Hood Canal Salmon Enhancement Group. And we worked with a lot of community members to bring a lot of funding in to get that project to a 30% design level so that we could have the project ready to go for grant applications. And so we've definitely put a tremendous amount of work into it with a lot of citizens in the community who put in money. So we didn't apply for a grant to do that 30% design. We went out to the community to get funding to make it happen as a community-supported project, which, you know, I've been in the habitat restoration business for 16 years now, and that doesn't happen. I mean, you really don't get that much community support behind a project unless it's something like this that the community really wants to see happen. So one thing that really is going to be a great opportunity for this community when we develop this park is the economic development component. I know that when communities have great parks and great trail systems within them, they bring folks in from outside of the community who want to come here to support local businesses, visit the restaurants, go to the stores and purchase snacks for the trail, or you know, buy gas so they can go back to the communities that they live in. So it's really going to be a great economic development component of the North Mason plan. So again, we have engineered drawings, and we also have over $250,000 in-kind match that's been committed to the project. So we have folks who are willing to do, like Brian said, come in and do some of the grading, come in and do some of the demolitions, come in and do donate gravel, donate all of these things. And again, that doesn't really happen with projects. I know this because I've been involved in this kind of work for a long time. It just doesn't happen. And so we don't want to turn down that opportunity for such a great project. And I know that one of the reasons that it has not been funded by grants over the last couple of years is the issue with not having it be in port ownership yet. So I'm really excited to hear that the final paperwork is being processed at this point, and that we could have the port owning that property very soon, because that will definitely help with the grant applications that we've been applying for over the last couple of years, because it takes away the uncertainty of a willing landowner. So if the landowner is the one that is the sponsor of the project, then it's more likely to be able to move forward. So my work on the property has only been going on for the last 6 years, 7 years or so. But I definitely am excited to see it come to fruition and encourage you all to keep it in the comp plan because it's where it needs to be. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion, comments, concerns? All right, we'll close the public comment.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Carries, thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you very
for
much.
being here.
And thanks for caring.
Yeah,
On the average, we've had two of the most people at the meetings.
I
in the last
know,
2
for the
weeks.
past two. That's
Yep.
great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.